Welcome back to podcast number 2 of the G.R.E.A.T. Great podcast. It's good to be back with everyone. Today we're going to be talking about reflections. I'm excited. We actually have done a little bit of reflecting on our podcast setup. We've now been sponsored by the Media Center, so everyone we can thank Mr. Brenyo for this wonderful mic. Again, I'll introduce myself, and then we can all go in a circle. Maybe we can say what we want to do in the future. Yeah. All right, cool. My name is Andrew Brissy. I'm the book study team captain here at Mallory Creek. And in the future, I want to do something in political science, in the politics or government world.
Awesome. My name is Aiden Wynn. I want to be an engineer.
Cool. I'm Morgan Bradley, and I want to be a JAG officer and then return to the military.
Ooh. I'm Zimian Forehand, and I also want to be an engineer.
I'm Mike Chambers, S1 Adjutant Officer. I would like to be an engineer as well.
I'm Jada Bowen. I want to go to college to study political science and then law school to become a public defense attorney.
Wow.
Very cool. So we got a lot of great minds and successful people at this table. So let's jump into it. Let's talk about some reflecting things.
Well, I'll start us off. How do you guys usually reflect? Whether that includes like journaling, listening to music, like what do you guys do to look back on your moments of clarity?
One thing I do is at the end of the day, I sit down and I think to myself, did I do all that I could have today? So like for example, I'd be like, did I talk enough at that presentation, or like was I as productive as I could have been? So that's just something I like to do.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know one thing. So I like to I think I call them walk-up songs, and during like before a game or something in soccer or something, I have like my AirPods in, or I'm listening to a song, and it gets me like pumped, and I'm like ready to go. And so it kind of just like brings everything like, hey, so did I practice enough? And it's not like doubting myself, but it's almost getting me ready for the game that I'm about to go into. I call it my walk-up song. But I also know in chapter 5, Ben Carson references how he reads books instead of like watching TV like the other children. And I really just think that like adds to his productiveness and brings to like his succeeding like stance and everything. And I just think that like that's a really good reflecting process because you're reflecting on whatever you're reading.
I really like that. I kind of build off the reading, and also I kind of like what you were talking about, kind of taking a moment of silence to kind of reflect. And for me, I call it my quiet time of the day. And I think that a combination of in-depth learning, which is a principle in Think Big, as well as books, which is also another principle, and God is kind of what I do to reflect. So my quiet time is my time to sit in silence, to meditate, to read God's word, and also I read books in that time. And so it's a good time to pause the constant task list that kind of follows high schoolers around, take a break from social media and all that noise, and kind of just slow down, think about my values, and also kind of build my relationship with God, but then also kind of that in-depth learning, continue to constantly be seeking information and thinking skills outside of school.
Right.
I think if I put all those together, that's probably one of my favorite times of my day because it's a break from everything else that is constantly part of my schedule.
Yeah. I really love that in-depth learning because, we have like learning, we have like whatever you do at school or whatever you do when you're going to practice or something. But saying in-depth learning is like saying we're getting down to it. This is something for me. It connects so well with reflection because we're thinking about like the deepness of it. So I love like in-depth learning, that idea.
Yeah, for sure.
I like to use journaling to reflect and reading as well. They kind of allow me to rein in at the end of the day with things I've done throughout the day, especially journaling, writing down things that I've already gone through. It kind of allows me to bring up things I was thinking in that moment, emotions I was thinking in that moment, and music as well. Like how you said you listen to music, before you do things. I listen to music as I'm doing things. It allows me to focus and kind of realize where I'm at, what I'm doing. That's...
Now, I have like a sort of opposite relationship with music right now when it comes to reflecting. I've noticed that I've become a lot more, I guess you could say, focused, and my attention span has gotten much better ever since I stopped listening to music while reading or working out or studying or anything like that. I've really started to hone in on my focus skills, and that's kind of we're reflecting right now. So I've noticed that it's helped me get better at studying, help my grades increase better, help me actually learn the things that we're talking about in class. And I just think that's really interesting how everyone's different.
Yeah, I really do agree with that. Like, everybody's different. Like, we don't always have the same process, and somebody can watch TV or listen to music while they're doing something, but it's not the fit for everybody. So really focusing on that in-depth thinking of like, what is good for me, that reflection of like what's good, what fits me is like a really good part of that.
Yeah, I like what I'm hearing from you beforehand, kind of how it takes care to truly reflect, because the only way you learn that you don't need music in your life to be as productive is through trying new things because you want to be more productive. And I think that reflection really shows what you value. Like, reflecting takes care because it shows that you want to improve. But then also, what I'm hearing from you, Bradley, is like, it also takes you knowing yourself and what you need personally, and how not everyone's going to fit the same mold. So thank you everyone for sharing kind of how we reflect, but why is it important for everyone to practice reflection in their life or in their career or at school or anything like that?
Oh, go ahead.
I feel that it's important for the future of building our program, because in order to build stronger relationships with our cadets, build stronger interactions, it takes reflecting on oneself to build something like that. In order to completing that, we would be working together further, I feel like, in the future, creating a better, more welcoming environment for the ones who join later. That's how I feel.
Also, I'm kind of going to make a bit of a reference back to our last podcast, which was about goals. We can't get anywhere with our goals if we don't have like a final decision on them. Or if we have a goal, like, for example, I want to be a librarian when I want to grow up. And you try becoming a librarian, but you realize it's really not for you. You can reflect on that and find a better career that's more suited for you. It's just important to reflect on things.
So reflecting on your goals to make sure they align with your values.
Exactly.
I like that.
I think reflecting is really important for the future, because even though, I talked about that in-depth learning, it's also kind of like, you can't move on without knowing the mistakes or the things that you've done in the past. Like, when we're born and we're trying to walk, as babies, we may fall, we may crawl a little bit, but we're thinking, even though we may not have that, like, oh, I'm reflecting, we're still thinking, hey, I can't walk I can't walk on one foot because I'm gonna fall. So we're still reflecting on that and then moving on. So reflecting is such a big part of our lives, even if we realize that even if we don't realize that we're doing it.
It's funny you say that. What I was about to talk about was how sports teams all practice reflection every single game or event, before or after, in the huddle.
Yep.
So you go and you play a game, or for me, you have a match, and your team afterward, you have a team huddle. They tell you, whether it's right after the event or whether it's the next day at practice, there's almost always a huddle on every team I've ever been a part of. We talk about what went well, what went wrong, what coach needs to see fixed, and then we implement a practice that works on the things we did wrong. Then before the next event, we have a huddle right before the game or right before the match, and we talk about, all right, now we're going to fix this, which we worked on in practice. Let's see if we can do a little bit better. And I think that process is very visible in sports, but it should almost be the exact same in every other aspect of your life. You do something, for example, in ROTC, like you were talking about, we have post-action reviews. We say, this went well, this did not. Let's keep what went well, let's change what went wrong, and then we move forward. And that's kind of how you constantly set the bar on like an upward trajectory. And I think that's kind of what everyone's goal in life should be, is you're constantly leveling up. As a good friend of mine says, are you leveling up with relationships? Are you leveling up in school? Are you leveling up in sports? Personally, all those different aspects of life. You're constantly on that upwards trajectory.
To kind of piggyback off of what you guys have been saying, in chapter 6, Ben Carson actually mentions a situation where he had to reflect. It was a kind of a ethical, moral dilemma pertaining to his mother. He felt pressure for some kids at school, and he accounts his feelings of shame, anxiety, embarrassment in that situation, especially how it affected his home life. It allowed him to reflect on his actions and realize that he needed to align his goals with what his views were, and kind of circle back to his education. Because he was focusing so much on fitting in, he wasn't reining in on what he needed to be focused on. And that, I think, really relates to reflection. It's important to reflect on what you were doing and what moment you're doing it in, if you're not reflecting on your actions, then you're not improving, and you're not going to be able to do better if you're not focusing on what you're doing in the first place.
I love how you use those words, the anxiety, the embarrassment, because I feel like we're so quick to focus on, hey, I did that so well, I did that, I won that match, I won that game, I got an A on that test. We're quick to reflect on those things and say, hey, I'll keep doing that, but we're not reflecting on the negative connotative words, and it's like, well, I felt this and I did this wrong, so now I need to, whatever I need to do to fix that, work on it. We don't focus on that, and I think that's like a really good thing to work on, that whole using those negative words and focusing on those as well.
Right. I think that's a very common problem. People, if they do something right, then they always focus on what they did right instead of working on like what they could improve on. So like if I were to win if I were swimming, I were to win the race, then I say oh, I did my flip turn really well, or I did my underwaters really well. I never really think about what I did wrong. So that's just one problem that I think that everyone can work on.
Actually, also sorry.
Nope, you go ahead.
I actually have something kind of like that too, but kind of the opposite. I've always noticed before now that I've always looked on things I've done in a negative way, and I've never looked on what I've done right. So recently I've started to look through what I've done right. Even if it's just one small tiny thing, I'll take that and I'll say, okay, can I implement that the next time I try this out? And maybe improve more things, maybe add another good thing, even if it's really small, just anything that works. It's really interesting how you both kind of have met people that always think of their things as positive rather than negative ever. So I just think that's really interesting.
Right. I think that ties in. You want to? Right. I think that ties in with the previous verse he was talking about. He said everyone doesn't fit into the same mold. Everyone kind of reflects differently.
It's true. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was writing down the exact same thing that you noticed, which is my brain, I focus on the negatives. They were talking about some people focus on the positives. I was like, what are they even talking about? 'Cause I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense to me. But what I wrote down is the need for balancing a constant desire for improvement while maintaining your self-esteem.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to be so focused on the negatives that it starts to affect your mental health and your belief about yourself. But you don't want to be so proud of yourself that you don't think you need to change or improve. And so I think you want to maintain a high self-esteem, confidence in yourself, while also being humble enough to know that you can constantly be getting better. I think that's what it takes to be successful.
I also think that's a common thing you see in high schoolers where they focus on the negative, that their self-esteem will dip or something, where and then they start actually dipping, because when you tell yourself, hey, that was really bad, I did terrible, you're going to start believing that, and then you'll start performing that. But to also piggyback off of your sports reference, how there's a team huddle, I think this falls under planning, but like not just reflecting on yourself, but reflecting on other things. You have to reflect on what the other team did, or what the high school is. If you're looking at a college or something, you have to reflect on, hey, will they accept this kind of GPA and these extracurriculars, and here's what I'm looking at. You have to plan and reflect on that, because you can't just say, I'm in my own bubble, I'm in my own world, because the world doesn't revolve around one sole person. And so I think that's like a really big, important part about like planning and reflecting.
I love that. Well, guys, this has been great. So this was episode 2. Last month we talked about goals. This month we're talking about reflection. Next month, I'm looking forward to our conversation on effort. That'll be a good one.
Looking forward to that.
I'm really excited. So thank you all, everyone, for being here. Again, we're the Mallard Creek Book Study team. And don't forget to be great.